Greetings, Chem. Today we're going to learn about another conversion, and that's going to be from moles to particles. So remember that when you have 1 mole of anything, it's going to equal 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. So remember, this is a counting word. So just like a dozen is 12, a mole is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. In chemistry class, the things that we're going to be using as particles is a good word. We can always also have atoms, ions, formula units, or molecules. These are really the most common ones that we'll use in this class. So I want you to be careful. Mole is a huge unit. So it always goes with the tiny number 1. Particles, atoms, ions, formula units, and molecules, those are all tiny units. So they go with this big, huge number here, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. So tiny numbers, big units. Big numbers, tiny units. So never put 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd with the word mole ever. Now let's turn this equivalency statement into conversion factors. Remember, when you have a conversion factor, you put one on top of the other across from an equal sign. So when I say particles, I can mean any of these 4 words. The other conversion factor is simply the opposite way. 1 mole is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd particles. So here's our conversion factors, and let's look at what some example problems might look like. Let's say the problem asks you to calculate the number of moles in 2.33 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of zinc. So my 2 possible conversion factors, remember, this particles can be either atoms, ions, formula units, or molecules, so atoms is good. So my conversion factor is going to allow me to cancel out atoms of zinc like such. Just double check. In this conversion factor, the word mole always goes with the number 1. And that big number, 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd, can only go with the tiny units. Now this is where you have to be careful, because in your calculator, I'm going to have you practice using the exponent function. So your calculator probably says EE to refer to exponent. You're not going to use the number 10. You're not going to use the times key when you're typing in that shorthand version for the number. And you're going to ask yourself, is it reasonable? Because you know that 2.33 times 10 to the 23rd is a smaller number than 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. So if you don't get a number that's less than 1, you know you've made a mistake. So mine's going to say 387 moles of zinc. Now I want you to be careful. We're going to add units. These are my units. And these are my labels. Every single calculation you want units and labels. In your calculator, you would type in, if you have a different calculator, don't worry. I will show you how to use yours individually. But it's usually on all the ones that most people have. You hit second, and then you're going to find the EE key. Remember, we don't use the times sign. We don't use the number 10. You just tell it what the exponent is. If you use the times sign, you will get this answer incorrect. Then we're going to push divided by key, and then 6.022 second EE second EE 23. When you push enter, it should give you the correct answer of 0.386 something something something, and you're going to round it to 3 sig figs, which would be 0.387 moles. So notice, there's no number 10 and there is no time sign in this entire problem. If you do it with the time sign, you will get the answer wrong because your calculator doesn't know what you're doing. You didn't tell your calculator that you're using scientific notation. Now let's take a problem where we're going to change moles and we want to change it to particles. This time we'll look up at our conversion factor. We're going to pick the conversion factor that allows us to cancel moles from the bottom. And this is going to be 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of O2. Notice how we don't even have to care what we're canceling. It's always going to be 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. Cancel, cancel. And in your calculator, you're going to use the exponent function. So 61.34. Then you hit the times key. This is because we're actually doing a multiplication problem. Then 6.022 second EE 23. Then you're going to push enter or equals, whichever your calculator does. And you should get an answer of 3 and I'm going to round it to 4 sig figs here. 694 times 10 to the 25th molecules of O2. Anytime you have molecules of O2, anytime the units are molecules, atoms, ions, formula units, you're probably going to expect to see a big number. So if you don't forget to not miss the fact that there is an exponent at the end of the number. So if you look all the way to the right, your calculator might say times 10 to the 25th, but it also just might say E25. That's telling you that there is an exponent. So this is the strategy we're going to use to convert from moles to molecules, or formula units, or ions, or atoms, moles to particles, or from particles to moles. We will go over the final step in changing mole conversions in your next lesson.